Hey, what's up, Pulse Ultra fam? You already know who it is. And today we have a very special what if suggested by fellow YouTuber Jredd Trex. Dredd's idea was for King Kai to teach the Earthlings fusion, and it actually came from the episodes in the anime that are filler, episode 92 and 93, where the human Z-Fighters take on the Guinea Force and actually win. This episode is so well loved because it doesn't feature a Saiyan as the main star, and people really seem to like that. I think we all get a bit sick of the Saiyans from time to time. So needless to say, I was very excited when Jredd suggested this timeline for me. And it all hinges on the idea that King Kai brings training partners onto his planet to help the human Z-Fighters out. But in this case, instead of the Guinea Force, it would be a pair of Metamorphs. This isn't too far-fetched of an idea that King Kai can know the Metamorphs, seeing as how they're all dead and I doubt they'd have too much to do. I imagine at some point they would have crossed paths. King Kai is also a pretty smart guy as well, and I think he knows that different fighters require different techniques to cover their weaknesses. For the humans, their technique in martial arts is better than most brawlers like Frieza or the Guinea Force, who aren't trained in martial arts, but they have the advantage of brute strength over them. So he'd realized a technique like the fusion dance would be really beneficial for them, and by the time they'd all arrived, he would have called in a favor to the Metamorphs to begin training them in the fusion dance. This is done to number 1, power them up individually, and number 2, critique their performance on the dance until it was completely perfect. These events all take place during Goku's battles with the Guinea Force and Frieza, making a pretty comedic scene of King Kai reacting to everything with shock and awe and having no one to relay the information to, as everybody else is all trained. And yes, Piccolo is on King Kai's planet for a while during this, but he doesn't really take place in the fusion training. He doesn't really want to deal with any of the human Z-Fighters, and so kind of just trains and meditates by himself. Piccolo does eventually get witched back to life and brung to Namek, and other than this, nothing has really changed. Goku ends up fighting against Frieza and wins, leaving planet Namek to be destroyed, and him to barely escape the Yardrat. Now Goku got almost 20 times stronger on King Kai by himself, but the humans all have training partners. Plus, Goku only had 158 days to train with King Kai, but Tien and the others when they died were way stronger from their training than Goku was when he died, so they'd be a little faster. So, I'm going to say that since Tien spent about 311 days in Otherworld, meaning Chaozu and Yamcha did as well, they are going to make it across Snake Way in 2 weeks, leaving them 297 days of training with King Kai, developing themselves as much as possible, and focusing on fusion. Speaking of which, Tien is by no means extremely fond of the technique, as it isn't a technique that really uses his own power, but instead makes him combine his with another's. It's a similar feeling to how Goku was when he achieved Super Saiyan God, and had that conversation with Beerus. It isn't his own power, it just doesn't feel right to him. King Kai tries to explain and incentivize Tien to use the technique, saying that he doesn't absolutely have to use it, but it would benefit them and their quest to keep the world safe. Not to mention, he by no means has to stop improving himself as an individual. That would only improve the fusion, and he points to Tien to begin doing the same training that Goku did on his trip to Namek and use the gravity chamber. Tien finds this acceptable and agrees to it begrudgingly. After a while, all the humans are wished back to life and return to Earth. Now when Frieza and King Cold arrive with their forces for revenge, Tien and Yamcha do consider fusing, but decide against it when Trunks arrives and shows them firsthand the power of a Super Saiyan. Not too long after Trunks' actions, Goku lands and he is given the warning of the androids coming in 3. The humans seeing Trunks' Super Saiyan power get a benchmark, and over the next 3 years of training, a goal to reach. This is a lot easier said than done, as Trunks as a Super Saiyan is very high of a mark to reach, but again, we see the gravity chamber come into play. Yamcha has Bulma build them one, and he and Tien begin to use it heavily, yet slowly, turning the gravity up by 5 every time they feel they've adequately adjusted to the gravity. This makes progression slow, but steady and safe, which is the only reason Tien allows Chaozu to train with them. Tien also takes the initiative to go out and invite Krillin to join them in training, since at the time he was actually stronger than all 3 of them, and could only really train with Master Roshi. Now, progression for them is very slow, as there are no Zenkai boosts, so they aren't getting stronger every time the 4 of them heal from their training. They do it very slowly, and try not to use sensu beans, as they need to save up for the upcoming battle. Goku, Piccolo, Gohan, and Vegeta don't really change their training here, but they do notice that the increases in power the humans are getting. They simply chalk it up to the gravity chamber must be a really big help, and sometimes might go there to train with them, but more or less stay in the woods and do things their own way. They sometimes note that they all must be powering up at once, the odd time that Tien and Yamcha decide to fuse to show Krillin the technique, or see how strong the fusion would be with the new power levels. Speaking of which, let's determine some power levels. Now Vegeta got to 400 times gravity in this time, and I think the humans will only be able to make it to about a little under half that at 150 times. Remember, they're progressing slowly. Now I've also determined that Goku got about 7.5 times stronger from his trip to Namek, and 100 times gravity in 6 days. Here the Earthlings have 3 years, and almost double the gravity that Goku did. So let's give them all a 14 times boost here. I'm going to have to do a bit of power level speculation here, just to give you a clear idea of where everybody is. Now, Krillin had a power level of 75k from the Namek Saga because the Guru power boost is steady and gradual. But I believe that Krillin's power level at this time is the only one we know for sure, as this is around the time that Toriyama was able to drop power levels, and soon I'll be able to do the same thing. But for now, let's keep going with it. For the others, we'll apply the same increase that Goku got from King Kai's training to their power levels, when they died in the Saiyan Saga. But remember, Goku only had 158 days of training, while the Earthlings have 297. Goku got a 20 times boost at King Kai's, so with almost twice as much time and training partners, we're going to give them all a 40 times increase in this timeline. This makes it so Tien can close the gap between he and Krillin, now being at a power level of 73,200. Yamcha behind him at 59,200, and Chaozu taking up the rear at 24,400. Now we'll apply our 14 times multiplier from the gravity chamber. This makes the new power levels Krillin at 1,050,000, Tien at 1,022,000, Yamcha at 826,000, and Chaozu at 336,000, which is why Tien does not allow him to come with the Z-Fighters to fight the android menace. At 9:30 a.m. on the morning of May 12th, Z-Fighters except Vegeta meet to wait for the battles to begin, and everyone is floored with how much stronger the humans have gotten. It's decided that everyone will split up into groups and search the city for the androids. Tien and Yamcha decided that it would be safer for them to fuse together instead of doing so with Krillin, mostly because Yamcha was still a bit scared. The two wait until exactly 10 a.m. so as not to waste their time limit and reveal the fusion dance to everyone, shocking them as a new warrior is created by the name of Tiencha, with the confidence of Yamcha and the seriousness of Tien. With the power and personality of both of them combined, they are not as overconfident as the Saiyan fusions, but still a very prideful warrior. Geekdom made a comment that the power multiplier of fusion can't just be a simple addition or multiplication of the power of the fusers. Because it's not like Goten and Trunks fighting in a tag team against Buu could win. There has to be some multiplier beyond the combination of the fusers along with the addition of power levels. So comment down below what you think this could actually mean, because I'm going to say that there must be as much of a 50 times boost because Goten and Trunks are nowhere near strong enough to go Super Saiyan 3. Yet Gotenks can't, so there has to be some strong power boost in the fusion dance that has allowed them to make that level. So with that said, the base power level Tien and Yamcha having their power levels added together would be almost 2 million, and with a 50 times multiplier, they would be around 100 million, very close to, which still isn't enough to defeat the androids or even Frieza, but it is enough for them to contend with at least. And luckily for me, it's the point of the story where I get to stop dealing with power levels. The Z-Fighters fly out into the city and begin looking for their adversaries. Tiencha, as Yamcha did in the original timeline, ends up running into androids 20 and 19, and luckily avoids having an arm hammered through his chest. When Jredd grabs him and rears his hand back, Tiencha gives an evil smirk and catches the arm with a little bit of trouble before yelling out Solar Flare. He makes a bit of space between them and fires off a huge Tri-Kamehameha beam right at the pair, alerting the other Z-Fighters where they are. Once his backup arrives, Tiencha curses, seeing his attack at full power did very little to hurt the androids, other than a few singe marks here and there, though he wouldn't realize that Jredd had absorbed the blast. He does, however, guess something wasn't right. Something about that blast hitting just didn't feel as it would if it was a real blast that hit somebody. Jredd, for his part, was extremely confused, as there would be no information on Tiencha, and somebody as powerful as him couldn't have just come out of nowhere. Before he can ask questions, Goku orders him to follow them, and he and the other Z-Fighters fly away from the city, heading towards the wastelands. Tiencha, taking this opportunity to fly ahead, warns the group that something about their energy attacks just would not work on these strangers, so try and refrain from using them. When they landed, Tiencha didn't leave much room for dialogue, and disappeared to attack again, using another of his combination attacks, the Volleyball Wolf-Fang Fist. It was a brutal, quick pace and seemingly endless combination that caught 19 completely off guard, as he kept trying to catch Tiencha in a hold so he could drain his power, but his fast-moving hands wouldn't allow him to do that. Goku, not being one to sit out, zoomed forward as a Super Saiyan to take on the newly revealed Jredd, and refrained from using his energy attacks per Tiencha's warning. As his battle commenced, he started to notice a pain in his chest, but ignored it as he heard Piccolo call for other Z-Fighters to join in, as there was no reason for honoring a battle with opponents that they knew had killed them in the future. Later in the battle, Goku began to tire from his heart, and Jredd was able to get a hand around his throat and drain him, adding to his already growing power. Goku screams out in pain, and this causes Tiencha to shift focus from 19 to Jredd to try and help, but then 19 was able to get a hand on him and drain his power. Just then, the fusion of Tiencha fizzled out, producing a tired and shocked Tien and Yamcha. This just so happened to coincide with the fall of Goku, due to his heart virus and the draining of his energy. Further adding to the chaos, in this exact same second, there was another scream, this one of victory, as Vegeta landed straight through number 19, crushing the android. While Vegeta gloated about his victory, Tien and Yamcha got Goku away from the fight, knowing that they couldn't fuse again for another hour and therefore would be pretty useless against the androids right now. Dr. Gero then cursed, finding himself surrounded, and this fact was made worse when future Trunks landed in the wasteland, confused to who this android was. This shocks everyone as he reveals that this was not who he was talking about. Gero looks for a method of escape and decides to just attack the weakest fighter there and use that as a distraction. He looks to Krillin and fires off a blast at him, which the short fighter narrowly avoids. This is enough of a distraction for Gero to have an opening to fly right through the group and into the mountains to find his lab. The Z-Fighters give chase, and on the way, Krillin begins to explain the fusion technique to Piccolo, where Piccolo reveals that he's already got it down packed. They decided it'd be best for those two of them to fuse, and that would give them a much stronger fighter to take on Gero. Coincidentally, the two just so happen to be the ones that Gero decides to ambush and siphon more energy off of, but it's completely floored when the two fuse in front of his eyes, bringing Piccolo into the world. Piccolo is definitely stronger than Tiencha, but is not able to fully hold off Gero, as again, he's been siphoning off power this entire time. And the pint-sized Namekian warrior ends up getting one of his long stretched arms caught, and Gero proceeds to drain him until the fusion breaks, and Gohan miraculously appears and blasts Gero away with all his might. Gero, with his newfound power, decides that his last resort can now be his first resort, and with a lot more confidence from all this energy, makes it to his lab just as the Z-Fighters arrive outside and begin trying to break down the door. Gero proceeds to release 17 and 18, and they begin questioning the good doctor, asking him why he'd release them now while planning to kill him secretly. Dr. Gero doesn't even reveal their kill switches, knowing he wouldn't need them, and says that as he is the mastermind to this dastardly plot, he was not going to do all the work for it. Just then, 18 tries to actually kick his head clean off, but is flabbergasted when the scientist cyborg, engorged with stolen energy, easily catches her kick. Dr. Gero then gives an extremely evil smirk and says that since he's now the strongest being in the universe, it wouldn't be very hard to keep them in line. But that, Plus Soldier fam, is where we'll be leaving this timeline off for now. The introduction of the fusion dance has made some huge changes in the timeline, not all of them good for the Z-Fighters. How strong has Gero really gotten from siphoning off all their energy? How will 17 and 18 deal with being henchmen now? How will Cell deal with this situation? And will Gero release 16 as well? Find out all this and more next time. And as always, go beyond plus ultra. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And thanks for watching. Hey guys, I'm actually recording this in post editing, but so while I was editing, I actually went onto Dredd's channel. Dredd has this series called Dragon Ball Shift. Now, I'm going to recommend Dragon Ball Shift to you guys. It is not a what if, it is a basically it's a Dragon Ball fanfiction that he reads to you. And I wouldn't recommend this unless I really thought it was good. To demonstrate that to you, Dredd didn't ask me to plug this in for you. I was speaking to him, and he was really surprised I was going to plug this in for him. He made a playlist of it. I'm going to link it down below. Guys, go check it out. It was very, very good to me. The fact that I was entertained enough to like slow down my editing and watch it like in full, it was very good. Go check it out. Please, please, please. Yeah, man, that's all I want to say. Thanks, guys.